Now, Long Island's largest radio news team brings you the Associated Press award-winning program, Newsline.
Coming up on Newsline Wednesday, October 25th, 2018.
Expect stormy weather this weekend.
Pipe bombs are sent to Donald Trump's critics.
And a child dies from the flu.
In business, a Ronkonkoma company is closing and Ford recalls millions of cars. I'm Lauren Brill, and I'll have those stories and your closing numbers later in the broadcast.
In entertainment, Ariana Grande will be beginning a world tour, and a new Natalie Portman film drops its first trailer. I'm Julia Wachtel, and I'll have those stories and more coming up later in the broadcast.
In sports, the Islanders move an additional game to NYCB Live, home of the Nassau Veterans Memorial Coliseum. Women's soccer begins their championship run, and the Knicks are already pulling for Durant next season. I'm Gabby Verano, and I'll have all that and more coming up later on in the broadcast.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Danielle Solkowski.
And I'm Nico Bermudez. We begin tonight's broadcast here on Long Island. A storm is heading toward the East Coast and will have an effect on Long Island this weekend. Jesse Lindell spoke with WRHU's chief meteorologist, Bruce Avery, who explains where the storm will hit.
We have two major sources of energy coming together into one storm, or at least that's what the computer models are saying. And that means starting probably late tonight and staying all the way through mostly Friday afternoon, evening, and definitely through the start of Saturday. A big coastal storm will be developing and moving along the Atlantic shoreline up from the middle Atlantic states through Long Island and up through New England and off into Canada.
What type of weather can we expect this weekend? This
storm has the potential for bringing a lot of rainfall, maybe 2-3 inches of rainfall, possibly as much as 4 or 5 inches of rainfall. It's tropical air, and there's a good chance of some tropical downpours, which would mean some street flooding, and that would most likely happen on Saturday. Also, the storm's going to have gusty winds, possibly as much as 50 to 60 mile an hour wind gusts, and with those 50 or 60 mile an hour wind gusts, then what you're looking at is potential of power outages and also the possibility of bringing down a lot of tree limbs.
What are the sources of the storm?
The energy from the storm, there are actually two sources of energy for this particular storm. One, which is a wave of energy which has come across the northern tier of the United States and the southern tier of Canada. And the other is that hurricane that came in from the Pacific all the way across Mexico and is coming from the southwest to northeast up all the way to join that first area of energy. So yes, this is actually the remnants of that Category 5 hurricane which made landfall on the west portion of Mexico.
Once again, that was WRHU's chief meteorologist, Bruce Avery.
Federal authorities are investigating a group of pipe bombs sent to multiple critics of President Donald Trump. The investigation has turned to southern Florida, where investigators believe a number of bombs had been mailed from. New York Mayor Bill de Blasio says these acts of terror will not force New Yorkers to stop sticking up for what they believe in.
This is clearly an effort to terrorize people politically, to choose people for political purposes and attack them because of their beliefs. That is the kind of thing we have seen before in this city, and we reject it, and we will not be intimidated by it.
3 more devices were found this morning. 2 of the devices were addressed to former Vice President Joe Biden Jr. in Delaware and 1 to Robert De Niro in Manhattan. All of the 10 packages that have been discovered Monday bore return addresses from Debbie Wasserman Schultz, a Democratic congresswoman from Florida. So far, none of the bombs have exploded, and investigators are working to determine if they are capable of detonating. Officials say the labels on the packages to Mr. Biden and Mr. De Niro were similar to the ones sent yesterday to former President Barack Obama, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, and others.
The New York City Health Department announced today a child has died from the flu, making it the first flu-related pediatric death of the season in the city. Officials did not release the child's age, gender, or borough. The health department suggests all New Yorkers get a flu shot, which is the best way to prevent the flu. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reports there were about 80,000 deaths and 900,000 hospitalizations from the flu throughout the U.S. The flu is a contagious illness that affects the nose, throat, lungs, and other parts of the body. According to the health department, Every year in the U.S., more than 200,000 people are hospitalized from flu complications, and the flu causes about 12,000 to 56,000 deaths each year.
Coming up after your Newsline business report, Mineola changes birth and death regulations, commentary regarding the coming November elections, and a Bayshore pedestrian is killed. But first, your live and local traffic and weather update. WRHU News Time is 5:35.
Newsline traffic.
Starting out on the Northern State Parkway, we're looking at delays of up to 30 minutes all heading eastbound towards Smithtown. Shifting to the Cross Island Parkway, there's a 40-minute slowdown southbound from the Whitestone Expressway to the Southern State Parkway. Now to the LIE, there's currently an accident westbound between exit 60 and the Saginaw Coast Parkway that has the left and center lanes blocked. On the rails, there are delays on the Montauk and Port Jefferson lines. However, all other lines on the LIRR are running on schedule. Up in the sky, flights at Newark and LaGuardia are experiencing ground delays due to high wind. However, flights at JFK are flying on time, so just double check with your carrier before heading out tonight. It is currently a crisp 51 degrees and sunny outside of our studios here in Hempstead. Tomorrow we expect partly cloudy skies with a high of 52 and a low of 46. With your Newsline traffic and weather update, I'm Jake Diamond, and I'll have another up-to-the-minute report later in the broadcast.
Newsline business news.
Ford is recalling nearly 1.5 million Focus compact cars in North America due to a fuel system problem causing engines to stall without warning. The recall covers cars from the 2012 through 2018 model years with 2-liter Ford cylinder engines. The recall came after the U.S. government's National Highway Traffic Safety Administration presented owner complaints to Ford. Dealers will reprogram the computer with new software that will detect a stuck valve, which the company says will take care of the problem in most cases. Ford says owners should keep the gas tank at least half full until repairs are made. The company says it is not aware of any crashes or injuries caused by the problem. The recall is expected to begin on December 10th. Ronkonkoma company Ingenious Designs LLC is closing. The houseware company, founded in 1991 by St. James inventor Joy Mangano and later sold to the Home Shopping Network, will close February 28th. According to a state regulatory notice, the reason for the closing is listed as economic. The company employs 66 people. Layoffs are scheduled to begin December 28th and run through the end of February. Hershey chocolate is about to get more expensive. The candy company is planning to raise the prices of a fifth of its products by about 2.5%. These changes will go into effect next year. The company hopes higher prices will offset the cost of rising commodity and shipping costs without scaring away customers. Chief Financial Officer Patricia Little said this morning that Hershey started feeling the impact of higher freight and logistics last year. Little says, "I don't expect that to change going forward into the next year." And now for your closing numbers. It was a green day on the market. The Dow Jones rose 401 points, ending at 24,985. The Nasdaq increased 210 points, ending at 7,318. And finally, the S&P jumped 49 points to end the day with 2,706. For Newsline Business, I'm Lauren Brill.
WRHU News Time is 5:38. The Village of Mineola says it is getting out of the business of birth and death certificates. It will now begin shipping records of anyone who was born or died in the village to the town of North Hempstead. According to Village Clerk Joseph Scalero, the decision will save Mineola hundreds of thousands of dollars in the long run, as well as free up 2 employees to do more resident-focused work. Eventually, anyone who needs those records will have to visit Town Hall in Manhasset to retrieve them. Mineola Deputy Mayor Paul Pereira assures this will be a gradual process that will be phased in over time. According to census data, the village's population was 19,387 as of July 1st, 2017. Mineola has held onto the birth and death records of every resident, as well as non-residents who were born or died in the village since 1906. However, thousands of people are born each year at NYU Winthrop Hospital, and the records that follow have overwhelmed the village, according to Scalero. Mineola processes about 6,000 birth records a year, a task which has fallen on 2 workers in the clerk's office. Scalero says as the workload increases, the staffing remains unchanged.
Election Day is less than 2 weeks away. One of our commentators on Hofstra Votes Live will be Dr. Larry Levy, the Executive Dean of Hofstra's National Center for Suburban Studies. He takes a look at the 3rd Congressional District race, pitting Democratic incumbent Tom Suozzi against Republican newcomer Dan DeBono.
Suozzi running in a very safe Democratic district where the only danger is in a primary, which he didn't have. I don't think anybody's seriously paying attention to the race. I think most people couldn't even tell you who he's running against. He should win. The only question is by how big a margin, and if you're a Tom Suozzi fan or you want to see Long Islanders have more clout, get more attention nationwide, the margin of victory could make a difference.
In the 4th District, Democratic incumbent Kathleen Rice faces another Republican newcomer, Amber Benno.
Kathleen Rice's district is another very Democratic district. There is, if you listen to any political analyst, zero chance that she will lose. In her case, it again is a matter of how much does she win by, how strong a position is she in to stave off a primary challenge in 2 years, or to make a case that attention should be paid to her when the Democratic Party begins to craft policy should they take over the House of Representatives. She's maintained a lower profile than Tom Suozzi, but again, your profile when you're in the minority doesn't matter very much.
Dr. Larry Levy, the executive dean of Hofstra's National Center for Suburban Studies. He will join us here on WRHU for our election coverage through Hofstra Votes Live on November 6th at 8 p.m.
A pedestrian passed away last night in Bay Shore after being hit by a vehicle on 5th Avenue. Suffolk County Police said in a news release that a 2018 Toyota CHR heading southbound hit the woman on the road around 10:30 p.m. She was pronounced dead at the scene and is yet to be identified. 38-year-old Derek Clark was the driver of the Toyota and remained at the scene of the incident. He was not injured, and his vehicle was impounded for a safety check. The investigation is ongoing. Detectives ask anyone with information to contact the 3rd Squad at 631-854-8352.
New York's 2nd Congressional Representative Peter King and his Democratic opponent, Luba Gretchen Shirley, debated at News 12 Long Island yesterday regarding various issues, including health care, immigration, and the MS-13 gang. 74-year-old King is seeking a 14th term in the 2nd Congressional District, using his previous experience fighting for funding after the September 11th attacks as a talking point. 38-year-old Gretchen Shirley spoke of her experience as an economic development expert working in the nonprofit sector. The two candidates fought over whether King was truly a bipartisan member of Congress. King said Georgetown University's Lugar Center had rated him the most bipartisan member of the House. Gretchen Shirley has criticized the congressman for voting to repeal the Affordable Care Act back in 2017. King defended his vote, but at the time said he would push for Medicaid expansion. The debate is set to air this Tuesday at 8:30 p.m. on News 12.
3 Suffolk County men have been indicted on charges they used a Port Jefferson Station barbershop to sell hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of narcotics such as fentanyl, heroin, and cocaine. A 53-count indictment unsealed yesterday alleges the drug sales, which officials say netted about $50,000 monthly, took place beginning in January at the Man Cave Barbershop on Route 112. Suffolk County District Attorney Timothy Sinai says while the barbershop provided haircuts to some customers, others were in and out in 5 minutes after purchasing drugs. Sinai says authorities did not link any of the narcotics allegedly sold at the barbershop to overdoses. Charged in the indictment was the barbershop manager Juan Lopez Enriquez of Coram, Carlos Encarnacion of Port Jefferson Station, and a barber from the shop, Santiago Tavares. If convicted, Lopez Enriquez and Tavares each face a maximum sentence of 8 to 20 years in prison, while Encarnacion faces up to 3 to 10.
Suffolk County Police arrested a Mastic Beach man and shot his dog yesterday after the man allegedly threatened a police officer. Police alleged that Anthony Johnson refused to stop his car when an officer tried to pull him over as he drove westbound on Wavecrest Drive in Mastic Beach. Police said Johnson's driver's license had been suspended 35 times. Police said the officer followed Johnson to his home on Woodland Drive, and Johnson then ignored the officer's directions after getting out of the SUV. Police say Johnson threatened the officer with a metal pipe and then sicked his dog, a pit bull mix, on the officer. Police say the officer shot and wounded the dog as it charged. Police charged Johnson with second-degree menacing, second-degree obstruction of governmental administration, resisting arrest, and a felony account of aggravated unlicensed operation of a motor vehicle. Johnson was held overnight at the police station and is expected to be arraigned today in First District Court in Central Islip.
Coming up after your Newsline entertainment report, an update on the suspicious packages, followed by commentary from a Hofstra University political science professor. But first, your live and local traffic update. WRHU News Time is 5:45.
Newsline traffic.
On the Southern State Parkway, we're looking at a 10-minute delay heading eastbound from the Northern State Parkway to the 135 Seaford Oyster Bay. To the Cross Island Parkway, there is a 42-minute slowdown southbound from the Whitestone Expressway to the Southern State Parkway, so please leave extra travel time when heading home this evening. On the rails, there are still delays on the Montauk and Port Jefferson lines, as all other lines are running on schedule. Up in the sky, flights at JFK are flying on time. However, flights at Newark and LaGuardia are all still experiencing ground delays due to high wind speed, so please double-check with your carrier before heading out this evening. With your Newsline traffic update, I'm Jake Diamond.
Newsline entertainment.
In entertainment, Ariana Grande will be beginning a world tour next year for her latest album, Sweetener. The first gig will be on March 18th, 2019 in Albany, New York. It is unclear when the tickets will be released for the general public, but the pre-sale for American Express card holders will become available between November 1st to November 3rd. Additional dates will be announced soon. The most popular YouTube creator since 2013, PewDiePie, might drop to second most popular. The rise of T-Series, a Mumbai-based entertainment company, is looking to take the top spot as most popular creator on the video-based sharing site. Both channels have around 67 million subscribers, but T-Series has gained around 4.2 million in the last month, while PewDiePie has only gained 863,000 in comparison. PewDiePie became famous on YouTube for sharing video game commentaries. In contrast, T-Series has a much larger entertainment firm that shares several Indian music videos a day. PewDiePie was working with Disney until last year when he came under fire for anti-Semitic content. The first trailer for the new Natalie Portman film has been released. Titled Vox Lux, the upcoming independent film has Portman starring as a pop performer trying to pull off a major comeback on stage. Portman's character, Celeste, attempts to overcome a controversy that brought a negative light onto her character. The film follows a 2-act storyline, the first half not starring Portman, but Raffi Cassidy as young Celeste in her teenage years. There are rumors that Portman's performance could help her gain a nomination for the supporting actress category. Vox Lux will be released in theaters on December 7th. For Newsline Entertainment, I'm Julia Wachtel.
WRHU News Time is 5:48. At least 10 suspicious packages were sent to prominent Democrats and critics of President Donald Trump. The most recent one was addressed to actor Robert De Niro in Lower Manhattan this morning. Other apparent bombs were sent to former President Obama, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, former Vice President Joe Biden, and former CIA Director John Brennan. None have exploded and nobody has been injured. The FBI suspects the packages are related to one another and warned there could be more. In his speech last night, President Trump called the incidents acts or threats of political violence. Quote, an attack on democracy itself. However, he tweeted this morning that so-called fake news is causing anger in our society, calling on mainstream media to, quote, clean up its act fast. White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders says not to blame the president for the bombs.
The president is certainly not responsible for sending suspicious packages to someone, no more than Bernie Sanders was responsible for a supporter of his shooting up a Republican baseball field practice last year.
And Attorney General Jeff Sessions says the Trump administration is committing to finding those responsible.
Across the administration, we condemn the actions that led to these activities in the strongest possible terms and are determined to make sure that we get to the bottom of it and justice is done.
We asked Hofstra political science professor Dr. Leslie Feldman what her take on the bomb packages is.
Looks like domestic terrorism, and it reminds me of the anthrax that happened right after 9/11. Packages of anthrax were sent to NBC studios. While so far nobody was hurt with these packages, it seems like the same sort of thing. It's domestic terrorism.
Does she see people blaming this on Trump supporters?
People on the left are going to say this comes from the right, and people on the right are going to say this is a left-wing person who's trying to make the right wing look bad. But I don't think you can blame it all on Donald Trump. Yes, he's against the media, but he never instructed anyone to send bombs to people. I was thinking that the caravan and the migration would affect the election by helping the Republicans, because Donald Trump is going to station troops at the border. I don't know what's going to happen now, because this terrorism could certainly turn people against the right wing.
That's Hofstra political science professor Dr. Leslie Feldman.
Former CIA Director John Brennan, one of several high-profile critics of President Donald Trump to be sent a pipe bomb in the mail, criticized him today, saying the American people deserve better after the president attacked the media on Twitter. Brennan tweeted, quote, "Stop blaming others. Look in the mirror. Your inflammatory rhetoric, insults, lies, and encouragement of physical violence are disgraceful. Clean up your act. Try to act presidential. The American people deserve much better. BTW, your critics will not be intimidated into silence." Trump lashed the media today for, quote, "purposely false and inaccurate reporting." He also said that a lot of the, quote, "anger we see today in our society," end quote, is caused by the media.
The Department of Homeland Security has requested additional troops for the U.S. border as a migrant caravan approaches. 800 personnel could be deployed. A U.S. official told NBC News the troops are likely going to be active duty, but a final determination has not yet been made, nor on the exact number that will be sent. The troops are expected to be in place by the end of the month. Earlier today, Trump tweeted he was bringing out the military to stop people from crossing the southern border into the U.S. The president has referred to the border situation as a national emergency. CNN reports an order authorizing the deployment could be signed as soon as today.
President Trump unveils a new effort to make prescription drug prices fairer and comparable to those of other countries. The Department of Health and Human Services found that Medicare pays more for 19 of 27 drugs than other countries, and there is only one instance in which the U.S. pays lower than the international average. In his remarks at the Health and Human Services Department, the president noted that other nations have been benefiting from higher prescription prices in the U.S.
We're taking aim at the global freeloading that forces American consumers to subsidize lower prices in foreign countries through higher prices in our country.
He also explained how the new plan would affect Americans.
Under our new plan, the Department of Health and Human Services would allow Medicare to determine the price it pays for certain drugs based on the cheaper prices paid by other nations.
The show Megyn Kelly Today is ending, according to sources close to the blackface comments controversy. Her future is in doubt at NBC, as it is unclear if she will remain with the network in a lesser role. Kelly spokesman Davidson Golden told CNN Business that NBC has not been in touch with Kelly or her representatives. Her show was replaced with a pre-taped episode this morning, and an NBC spokeswoman says, given the circumstances, Megyn Kelly Today will be on tape the rest of the week. Kelly also hired attorney Brian Friedman and has parted ways with her talent agency CAA. Kelly is in the middle of her second year of a 3-year, $23 million a year contract. Canceling the show predates this controversy. Kelly has been openly challenging management for months, while news staffers have called her show a disaster. Spokespeople for NBC News declined to comment on her future at the network.
Special Counsel Robert Mueller's office has obtained communications that suggest a right-wing conspiracy has advanced knowledge that the emails of Hillary Clinton's campaign chairman had been stolen and sent to WikiLeaks. Mueller's team has spent months investigating whether Jerome Corsi, conspiracy theorist, learned that WikiLeaks obtained the emails hacked by Russian intelligence officers, and if the info was passed to Donald Trump associate Roger Stone. Mueller's team has reviewed messages to members of the Trump team in which Stone and Corsi seem to take credit for the release of the emails. Others familiar with the matter say they have seen no evidence suggesting either man played a role in the hacking or release of the emails. Mueller's spokesman, Peter Carr, says the office has no comment. Stone appears to be in Mueller's investigative scoop as the special counsel seeks to determine whether he participated in the secret Russian operation to help Trump win the 2016 election.
Saudi Arabia's attorney general says evidence shared by Turkish officials suggests the killing killing of journalist Jamal Khashoggi was premeditated. In a statement by the Saudi press agency, Saud al-Mojeb says there are indications that the suspects in the incident had committed their act with a premeditated intention. The statement additionally says the investigation continues in order to complete the course of justice. This is the most recent change in the Saudi government's shifting account of what happened to Khashoggi after he entered its consulate in Istanbul on October 2nd. President Donald Trump calls the effort to conceal Khashoggi's killing the worst cover-up ever. After denials that Riyadh was involved in Khashoggi's disappearance, Saudi officials admitted last week that Khashoggi was killed inside the building. However, the Saudis had previously maintained that Khashoggi's death was a mistake when operatives trying to persuade him to return to Saudi Arabia turned into a fatal fistfight.
Coming up, your final live and local traffic and weather update. But first, your Newsline sports break. WRHU news time is 5:56.
Sports update.
With your Newsline sports break, I'm Gabby Verano. On the ice, the Islanders have announced the February 28th game against the Toronto Maple Leafs will be played at NYCB Live, home of the Nassau Veterans Memorial Coliseum instead of the Barclays Center. The New York Islanders fell 3-2 to the Florida Panthers last night in overtime. Redemption comes this Saturday at 1 p.m. against the Philadelphia Flyers. You can listen to all the action live at 88.7 WRHU. In Hofstra sports, women's soccer starts the journey to defend its CAA championship title tomorrow in Brookline, Massachusetts at 1 p.m. Third seed Hofstra takes on 6th seed Delaware in the quarterfinals. Hofstra has a 6-2-1 record in conference play and is looking to ride a 3-game win streak to defeat the 3-5-1 Blue Hens. Also in action tomorrow, field hockey. Looking to slay the Drexel Dragons in Philly at 6. The Pride is currently 5-11 overall and 2-2 in CAA play. The Dragons are 8-8 in regular play and 1-3 in the CAA. From the field to the court, 17-7 volleyball travels to Virginia to face the 5-14 William and Mary Tribe at 7 tomorrow. In CAA play, the Pride is 7-3 and the Tribe sit at 1-9. Hofstra is coming off a 3-1 win against previously undefeated James Madison. In New York professional sports, in the NHL, the Rangers head west to skate against the Chicago Blackhawks tonight at 8:30. On the court, the Knicks host the Golden State Warriors tomorrow at 7:30 as the Nets travel to the Gulf Coast to catch the New Orleans Pelicans at 8. Joe Harris, guard forward, spoke about staying consistent while preparing for the game.
We're trying to take this to New Orleans. It's going to be a difficult test for us just with the way that they've been playing offensively. But, you guys stay consistent with your habits and deliberate in the practice, and hopefully we can keep this thing going.
Sound courtesy of NBA.com. In more Knicks news, a billboard with Kevin Durant and Kristaps Porzingis has been posted near Madison Square Garden by a marketing company. This is an attempt to recruit Durant to New York. It is believed that the power forward will become a free agent next season, and hopefully Durant can make New York sports great again, as the sign reads. With your Newsline Sports Break, I'm Gabby Verano.
Newsline traffic.
There is an accident on the Grand Central Parkway eastbound approaching 69th Road, which has the left lane blocked. To the Van Wyck Expressway, there is a 50-minute slowdown heading southbound from the Whitestone Expressway to the JFK Expressway. On the rails, there are still delays on the Montauk and Port Jefferson lines. However, all other lines on the LIRR are running on schedule. Up in the sky, flights at Newark, LaGuardia, and JFK are all still experiencing delays due to high wind speed. So again, please double-check with your carrier before heading out this evening. It is currently a chilly 49 degrees and sunny outside of our studios here in Hempstead. Now for your extended weather forecast. Tomorrow, expect partly cloudy skies with a high of 52 and a low of 46. On Saturday, be ready for the incoming nor'easter as it'll bring 1 to 2 inches of rain and wind speeds as high as 50 miles per hour. And finally, on Sunday, we will see partly cloudy skies with a high of 53 and a low of 48. For Newsline Traffic and Weather, I'm Jake Diamond.
That'll do it for tonight's edition of Newsline. Many thanks to the entire WRHU News team. Our engineer this evening is Grant Francis.
Stay tuned for the Rock and Roll Oasis, only here on your 2-time Marconi Award-winning college radio station, 88.7 FM, Radio Hofstra University.
For Newsline, I'm Nico Bermudez.
And I'm Danielle Zolkowski. Thanks for listening and have a great night.